Looks like there's going to be a little bit of fighting for rooms over here today. Sorry about the noise coming in. I got a band practicing next door, but welcome to Evidence-Based Audio number 163. And this is plenty of pro guitars with unbalanced connections, which is kind of a dig at somebody, but we'll get to that. Now, first of all, and yeah, sorry about this practice going on, but you know, this is how we do music around here. You know, we're always doing something. Hopefully I don't get DMCA'd, and I want to play something that hopefully doesn't get me DMCA'd as well. But you know, hopefully these laws don't go through where somebody's playing background music and you get nailed for it because you're on your stream. That's ridiculous. I may as well just put my hands out for the handcuffs right now, because you never know when somebody's gonna be playing, if they're whistling behind you or something. Anyways, I first wanted to go through a video from Ola. Hopefully you're gonna know who this is. Ola England. He does a lot of review kind of stuff, metal engineering things, and he's got a line, I think it's called Solar Guitars, and he has pretty much the same guitar, neck through and bolt on, and he's talking about what's the difference. And I'm just gonna play this. I'm gonna play this a little bit fast, I think. Let me play it 1.5 times and let's see how this goes. And don't DMCA me, Ola, okay? You know we're supposed to be on the same side here. It should be okay.
Today I'm comparing a bolt-on constructed guitar versus a neck-through constructed guitar. So usually when people are making demos of neck-through versus bolt-on versus set neck guitars, you know, there's just so many variables that affect how a guitar sounds acoustically and, you know, electrified.
Sorry. Do we care what that electric guitar sounds like acoustically? And does the acoustic sound of an electric guitar have any bearing on the electric output or sound of the electric guitar? I'm going to say no, except for in ridiculous cases where it doesn't even make any sounds, or, you know, strings buzzing, or, you know, mechanical problems of that sort.
To make a proper comparison, you would need to have, you know, the same guitar constructed with the same kind of woods, just that one.
I don't care about the woods, Ola, but, you know, I don't know that you're a tone wood nut, but, you know, when have we done those tests on here? A lot of times it really showed that scale length and where exactly the pickups are kind of made a difference there. I don't know about, you know, not going to be the woods and stuff, but looks like these guitars are pretty much the same thing. So hopefully that's going to be a pretty, that kind of stuff's going to be in the same place.
Has bolt-on and one is neck through, and that's what I have right here today. These are Solar guitars, S1.6 FR FM. They're both constructed in the exact same way. They both have the same woods, both in the body and the neck. They have the same pickup. They have the same Floyd Rose bridge. Everything matches on both these guitars. Even the tuners are the exact same. Everything is the same wood, same fretboard. Both have a mahogany body with maple veneer top on them. The necks are maple Yatoba in mix, as you can see, and ebony fretboard, stainless steel frets. Everything is the same except for the absolute neck construction. You have a bolt.
Oh wow, he's got a. That's pretty good access up there, even on the bolt-on, isn't it? You know, as much as I love neck throughs, man, these bolt-ons are so much lighter.
Bolt-on right here and a neck through right here. Unfortunately, I don't have a set neck version of this. If you're unfamiliar with neck constructions, basically bolt-on is a bolted-on separated neck that you screw on to the body like this, while a neck through is constructed a full maple body like this, glued together with the body. But as you can see, the maple goes all the way through, supposedly giving more resonance to the full guitar. In general, a lot of people are saying that bolt-on guitars are a little snappier sounding than neck-through guitars, and also that neck-through guitars has longer sustain than bolt-ons and vice versa. And with today's test, I'm going to try and figure all that shit out and see if there's an actual difference, both acoustically, plugged in, and just then I'm going to give you my conclusion regarding bolt-on versus neck-through, okay? All right, first up, I want to try how they compare acoustically, just, you know, not plugged in or anything like that. I've set both guitars where I have the same distance from saddle to pickup, also from string to pickup, just trying to shrink down the variables as much as possible so we can get a proper comparison between bolt-on and neck through. So first off, I want to start and just see how they compare acoustically. Now, this obviously doesn't matter when it's an electric guitar and plugged in.
He said it. He said it. I'm gonna slow this down here. Interesting, Ola. Interesting.
Let's just quickly. Now, this first off, I want to start and just see how they compare acoustically. Now, this obviously doesn't matter when it's an electric guitar and plugged in.
This obviously doesn't matter when it's an electric guitar and plugged in. I'm proud of you, Ola. I'm
acoustically. Now, this obviously doesn't matter when it's an electric guitar and plugged in. Well, let's just see if there is a difference acoustically and how they kind of cling out and resonate without it being plugged in. I just thought it was interesting, okay? So this is the neck through guitar right here. Sounds like this acoustically.
Does that sound a little bit different to you? You know, of course, it could be a degree off on the mic or a millimeter or whatever. Slightly bit, to me, slight bit difference, but really easily attributable to the mic distance and stuff.
All right, without listening to the result, I hear immediately that the bolt-on guitar is a little snappier sounding. It has a little bit more brittle to
I thought it was the other way around. I thought the neck through sounded snappier. Interesting.
the tone. Not as much bass, not as full as
Oh,
the
wait, yeah, the second one was the bolt-on. Interesting.
neck through right there. And this is just acoustically, okay? All right, so how does it sound plugged in? Let's try it out.
There's the neck.
Let's try it out.
Almost the exact same, I think.
Now, it's going to be really interesting here to a little bit more brittle sound. And just with the acoustic result I was getting, you know, where I was saying that the bolt-on was a little bit more brittle sounding, I kind of get the same feeling when I'm plugged in, connected to, you know, a clean channel amplifier. However, I might get fooled because I'm also hearing the guitar acoustically right now. It's going to be really interesting hearing how the results differ when I check this out later. And now for the metal test. How does it fare with a chuggy chuggy McChug riff? The bolt-on definitely seems a little bit tighter, but it's also maybe what I'm hearing acoustically together with the electrified signal that I'm hearing right now. So that's also going to be very interesting hearing afterwards and see if there's a difference.
I am not getting any difference here. I know I must be a neophyte. So sustain is a weird thing. Remember we were testing this with different string sizes, and things kind of went a little bit backwards from what you might have thought.
So in the regards of sustain test, I made a sustain test where I was playing 12th fret of the G string on both guitar, basically measuring how long of a sustain and how they would compare between neck through and bolt-on. And rather than just play them after each other, I figured it would be easier to just show you the difference in a DAW, like Logic right here. So
now this could easily be, you know, mic distance, picked strength. The envelope looks pretty much the same, but if anything, the bolt-on is longer.
Neck through tone right here, and the bolt-on tone right here. So we can see they're starting about the same. And as you can see from these two files right here, notice that this is bolt-on and this is neck through, is that the bolt-on has a slightly longer sustain.
But it's slightly louder
now,
as well.
There's going to be other factors in this that affects the sustain, but I think it makes a clear difference. I thought before that the neck through would be superior in sustain, but in this case, between these two guitars, the bolt-on actually that can affect sustain than just, you know, the neck through versus bolt-on in this case. And, you know, back in the day, I was convinced that neck through was the absolute shit. You know, it was the best you could get. It's a little bit more complicated to construct and build a neck through guitar, and I was also convinced that it sounded the best. And now we're talking like 15 years back or something like that. You also have a better fret access up on the higher frets, but that also depends on the construction
That's what
of the
I
actual
care about.
guitar.
I've seen neck throughs with horrible upper fret access, but his bolt-on looks pretty good. I have I think it's at home. I have an Agile with something similar to that, the way that one was set up.
Pretty far up on the neck through. It depends on how you design the guitar. This solo right here is very shaved off at the heel right there. So
that's not bad.
So the fret access is still very, very good. I mean, I can still go down. If I just put my hand up and down, obviously
as much as I've always done neck throughs when I could help it, the weight of them it's so weird. And I do like that it keeps neck dive from happening, but I kind of would like the lighter guitar. I kind of like these bolt-ons.
The bump is going to go on my thumb, but it doesn't really affect me that much. On the neck frill, it's basically the same. So if you compare the two fret axis wise, it really depends, because if it's a bolt-through guitar that's very well designed, then the fret axis shouldn't be a problem. A pro with the bolt-on is that if you break the headstock, or like break the neck in general, it's just easier to switch out. If you break a guitar that has a neck-through construction in some way, then it's going to cost a lot more to fix. In regards to the tone, I think it's more of a preference, to be honest.
I don't even think it's a preference. I think they sounded the same.
Man. There's not one that's better than the other. It's just a taste, basically. I think I personally prefer set neck the absolute most, which is somewhat in between sounding between the
I don't think it sounds any different either.
bolt-on and the neck through. Unfortunately, I couldn't have a set neck guitar in the same construction in this test right here. So what did you think? Go listen back to the comparison right there. Did you hear a difference? Does it make a difference? Like, does it matter, the difference, or is it just the application? I mean, you also have to take into account that if this guitar, the bolt-on, is a little bit brittle, you will dial in an amplifier in a completely different way than you would with a neck through, at least in my opinion, and for metal, obviously.
If there's even any difference, which I don't think there is.
There's also the thing about, it doesn't really matter when you're pushing so much gain on the amplifier like you do in metal.
That's true too. Like that's what we're always saying, right? Like, is it really making a difference when you're cranking the hell out of it?
So that is a fair point right there. So there you go. That's a comparison video between a bolt-on and a neck-through constructed guitar right there. I think it's
interesting. Let's give Ola a like. This was a good comparison between dot inlays and no dot inlays. I was surprised by how much of a difference having dot inlays made. I personally prefer blocks as there's more inlay and therefore much more tone. That is awesome. Because it's true, right? That's the difference. This one has dots and the other one doesn't. But, that's just somebody being snarky. All right. Next. Okay. There was a thread that somebody was looking into multi-effects for guitars, and I hadn't heard of this product before. This is Boss GX1000. There's a Boss GX100. There's a Boss 1000 something. What is it? It's like a super duper. It's their flagship. It's basically their Helix. It's actually cheaper than the Helix, maybe. Maybe not quite as cool. I don't know if it has like the scribble strips and everything, but that's like their flagship multi-processor right now. And there's so much out right now. The Neural, I think the Head Rush, and some of the others. But I'll take the Boss and the Line 6 because look what they come with. They already have an expression pedal on board, and that's important. I know maybe it's not important for a lot of you, but it looks good to me. So I think this thing was meant to compete with the Pod Go, which is $500. It's actually $100 more for the Boss one, and I think it had like touch sensitive screen, and you could do a lot of stuff with that. Looked like you could do dual amps at the same time. I'm not sure how cut down this thing is compared to the GT 1000 or whatever, but it looks really interesting. If you're in the market for one of these multi-effects processors, I got to tell you, I really love the Pod Go. But, it's a GX100. Does it have the proper dual path where you can take a signal out that doesn't have a cab simulator on it, and then one that does, so that it goes to the, send one to a regular guitar amp in case you need that, and the other one to the PA or the recording system or whatever? I don't know. I bet it does. Let's see. USB port, jack. Send. So there's an effect send. I mean, if you can move this stuff the way you can on the Helix or on the Pod Go, you could put the effects loop before the cabinet simulator. Let's see if we can get a picture of the back of this thing. So here we go. So there's an output, a send. Yeah, it looks like there's a send and return you could use for sending out to the amps. And it's got a ground lift on it. Interesting. We know we can do the stuff with the Pod Go and the Helix, but it'll be interesting to see how this goes, and especially since it's $100 more than the Pod Go. But it does have touch screen, I think, and Some other cool stuff. Yeah, touch control for turning things on and off and moving them around, I guess. And if you ever use like Boss products like this before, they have a pretty good editor for setting up your effects and your presets and stuff. I'm actually thinking of working on a patch editor, a text-based one. Hold on, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. It's a live show. That's what happens, and got a lot of people I gotta be on the call for. Anyway, I'd like to hear if anybody's got one of these things already. Let me know about it, and we've got some pod goes over here we can compare it to. I'd like to know how this is going to go. I don't see as many people buying the Boss GT1000 as the Helix, but given Boss's dominance in certain parts of this industry, I'm sure they're out there. And I think the guy just retired, right? The guy who's in charge of most of Boss, or at least the guitar side. But this looks pretty solid. You know, honestly, I'd probably rather buy this than the Quad Cortex or the other things, because having that expression pedal on there is handy. Okay, so now the reason I even heard about this thing is this this thread. These guys are talking about hello good folks, what are the so let me read the original post. It says, hello good folks, what are the specs to look for when choosing a multi-effects guitar pedal for decent professional album level recording? I have been hunting around but not got much clarity so far, pun not intended. I think the sampling rate counts, and I think 48 kilohertz is enough, but beyond that, stuff like output levels and other factors have been hard to figure out so far. I'm currently choosing between the Line 6 Pod Go, the Boss GT1, and the new Boss GX100. I'll be recording at home, and the current plan is to take a line out to an audio interface rather than go via USB into the computer, and the idea is to make music that is release-worthy. Thanks for reading. It sounds to me like this guy's not all that sure about what he's going to be doing anyway. I'm not thrilled that he's out there looking for expensive stuff when he's got questions like these. But this is good questions to ask, so I'm glad that he's thinking about it. But I wouldn't recommend buying anything right now. First of all, I don't know that you want to put that many effects into the thing. It's, you know, you could buy a Line 6 Helix native and get the same sound after you record it and be able to make decisions about it. I think you could do something similar with the Pod Go. I would rather just have an interface and a DI, honestly, especially if you're asking questions like this. If you're going out to go play live, go buy something else maybe, but not for recording. So he's talking about the sampling rate. Sample rate, don't care unless you're going digitally in, which you probably should, but then you just want to make sure it's the same sample rate as you're recording it. 48 kilohertz is more than good enough. 44 kilohertz for the guitar is more than good enough. I know we can talk about some aliasing and stuff, and guitar distortion is one of those places where maybe it would show up more than in other places, but I think you're still going to be okay. Let's see, the other thing, output levels. I wouldn't worry about that either. I like the choice of these things, but I really don't think that a device like this is what you're looking for what you're doing. And somebody puts guitar plus multi-effects equals eventide. Yeah, good luck. It's only $5 bajillion, but PCM 80. So these guys are thinking about the multi-effects that they used to have racks in the 80s and 90s, you know, but a little bit different. He's saying something like he can't afford a plugin. High-end plugins are expensive. The free ToneLib, or not free, but whatever, Honorware ToneLib GFX will do all this stuff. But what I really liked is people are like, yeah, here we go. So I'm going to read from Rabbit88. Eventide H9 seems the closest. No. Debatable if it's professional, as it hasn't balanced connections on the back and a normal line level. So I like this. Psycho Monkey gave the answer. Plenty of pro guitars with unbalanced connections, right? Any guitar, well, there's some weird exceptions, but for the most part, this isn't a TRS. Well, actually it is because of something else, because of the switching. But the cable you're going to be plugging into this is just a regular tip sleeve. It's got one signal, one ground. So it's unbalanced on the guitar. So plenty of pros play their unbalanced guitars, right? I know. I harp on balance versus unbalanced, but there's places where it matters and places where it doesn't. But then again, I'm actually kind of surprised that even I didn't put a balanced output on for the price of that H9. How much did that thing cost? Let's go to Sweetwater. Eventide H9. Yeah, it's only $700. I'd rather buy the damn. Yeah, it's got like 2 switches. Like, no, I'll take the Podgo. Anyway, I thought this is a funny thread, but this is one of those things. Like when somebody's asking, "Hey, should I be recording analog or digital?" Or you ain't got it doesn't matter. You got. It sounds like you got so much other stuff you got to worry about that I wouldn't be worrying about buying these expensive things. Yeah, this. I'm just gonna put it on here right now. So say honestly, and let the arrows fly. My opinion. That's the most dangerous 3 words that a doctor can ever say, right? In my opinion. So I'm saying honestly, and let the arrow fly. In my opinion, you do not need one of these types of devices for the type of recording you want to do, and it would be counterproductive. For your cheap plugins would be way better, so I'm just going to submit that now. Okay, so last thing here. There was let me go to, I was on a YouTube video with Glenn Fricker and Ethan Weiner. You might have heard Ethan Weiner on my show before. He's like the world's probably most popular, anyway, acoustician right now. He was the guy who had started Real Traps and lots of times took on a lot of the who's who on the online alleged gurus. Back then, before there was YouTube, it was more forums and stuff. And, he talked about actually measuring things and testing things for real. The same thing we do on this channel all the time. And one of the things that he really got nailed for is that he said that a Sound Blaster, like the crappy one that comes with your computer, is superior in every measurable way, audio-wise anyway, to a Studer 2-inch 24-track, whatever. And he's right. It was less noise, less distortion, better frequency response, and wider bandwidth. And that's just the way it is. But man, Mixer Man and all those guys went after him so hard. You think about where these guys are. Where's Mixer Man right now? Where's Fletcher? All these constant guru guys talking at you. And now what are they doing? Nothing. Maybe I'm sure they're doing something, but they're not out there anymore. It's like they were selling a book or something. I don't know what, really. None of that stuff made any sense to me. Actually on this episode, we talk about Kenny Joya in there and, his relationship with Reaper and it's kind of ironic how that ended up. But there was some posts over at the gear page. My thing is, if it's manifests in the real world, we can measure it. There will always be some God of the Gap stuff where people are like, oh, well, there's this one magic thing that's hiding over here. But I'm like, you know what? Let's hear it. If you can find it, fine, we'll talk about it. But most of the time, they can't. And when we do an ABX test or whatever, they can't find anything. it's kind of crazy because thanks a lot, Glenn, by the way, for not putting our links up. So nobody's going to actually come to me from that video. Thanks a lot. That was kind of lame. But it was one of the most positive. If you ever watch Glenn Ficker's videos and especially read the comments, you know what kind of comments you're getting. But in this case, it was mostly positive. In fact, I bet you if I go there, it's still going to be mostly positive, which is weird. I want to feel happy about that, but at the same time, you know, I kind of scared that people weren't as mad at me as I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
let's take a look at the comments here. One of the things I kept saying is, please do more of these. Yeah, hope you have these two guys on regularly. Digital is so harsh sounding, but a hot analog clip sounds so warm and musical. Blah 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 blah. I use analog. Sound wise, it's just a different character. Maybe not. Oh, and the McGurk effect. Reaper has been my DAW since 2010 at least, and has been developed to the point of any of the bigwigs. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very, very positive stuff. Ooh, wow, here's on. I know Pipeline back in the Vegas boards before Reaper was a thing. Didn't realize he had any hand in the creation of Reaper, even though as I was heavily involved in those forums during beta testing and super early on, along with dozens of folks it seemed. But that's cool to learn. Same thing with Ethan. Knew him before Real Traps took off. Both friendly guys every time I interacted with them. Cool to see them both kicking about. Awesome. Now I wonder which Tom J this is, because there were some seriously, you know, they may not have been household names, or maybe they were, but they were absolute fountains of information in the Sony Vegas forums, Sonic Foundry Vegas forums. Yeah, everybody's saying, tell that guy he's inside. Sunglasses are not necessary. They're not sunglasses. They aren't sunglasses. So the funny thing is about the sunglasses is I could never wear them. I could never wear them on my bike. I can't stand them on my face. I'm really having trouble with regular glasses. But had I worn sunglasses earlier in life, I probably wouldn't need these glasses now. I mean, that's the thing. I think the sun damaged a lot of my seeing my vision. I'm saying, great podcast, Glenn. Make this a regular. And so many people were saying this stuff, you know. They liked it. So, Glenn, next time, link us for one thing. Let's see if he's linked us. Nope, still hasn't linked us. Let me just put that on there. Okay, I'm just whining. All right, but anyway, so there was some comments coming back from here. Interesting. There's a guy named Cram on here, and I have a feeling this is Tom Cram, who may be the guy who owns now my beloved Digitech from way back in the day. Saying Ethan Weiner has taught me so much about managing sound. I got his audio expert book way back when I was building my studio and hanging out on John Sayers forum. That's another acoustic resource, John Sayers forum. I've always been sensitive to sound and thinking through what shapes it. Conceptualizing this for room design was a great experience. Any bass trap I ever built was built based on something Ethan taught or told me. So Slayer Bear, I feel so bad for Ethan at times, just getting piled on by these stupid moronic idiots on some of the other forums. And remember, I don't know, you know, maybe these memes are all gone now, but let's just type this in real quick. I'll see if I can find anything. I mean, these guys were going out of their way to make like videos and stupid pictures about making fun of Ethan. But you know, it turned out he was right. So I wouldn't be surprised if these all disappeared. But there was one where they were just totally making fun of him about the Sound Blaster thing. But you know, it turns out he was right. Oh, what is this? Interview. Oh yeah. Interesting. So Ethan Weiner busting audio myths and why Dave Pensado was tricked. I hope and think that probably refers to Dave Pensado recently had this show where they were testing magical power cables. Man, look at, like, I've got one. I'm not even gonna pull it down. Somebody left one here. One of these like $300 power cable. Oh yeah, here it is right here. Power cables. And like, come on, Dave Pensado, you know better than this. Anyhow, let me get back to where we're going here. But anyway, you know, he kind of turned out right, so I'm not so worried. And so Cram says, thoughts on this? Audio and visual engineering is fraught with the subjective end. It is. And of course, because we like it or we don't like it, that's subjective. This is why redundancy, statistical output, and blind, double-blind testing is used. Forum or any community without proper peer review is a silly platform to entertain or even have a high-quality debate. One of the problems with peer review in audio engineering is that your peers are woosters. They're the kind of guys that James Randi would have smacked down back in the day. And yeah, that's the thing. Ethan is kind of the audio industry's James Randi. She says, I recall a guy here who was trying simply to explain speaker directivity, and holy crap, people would take it off the rails, and 1,000 posts later still in the same place. His results and methods in all of this are standard. He's got respect. He has also always had a way of rationalizing human understanding for managing sound that was approachable to me. His willingness to share and educate is a gift. Yeah, Ethan is awesome. Now, one of the things we're talking about here, it's just like how many times we talked about this specific forum where I've gotten kicked out either for asking for evidence or for posting reality that people don't like. I like the way Pine Creek says, if you don't like reality, you can try and change it. You could try and change how we deal with it. You could create some new technology, but just being upset that it exists and then blaming somebody for telling you that it's what the truth is, the best way to really handle that, I think Pine Creek would say, is go off in the corner and cry about it, and you'll feel better, and then come back when you're done. Because, if you drop a rock on your head, it's going to hurt. I don't want to get hurt by that rock dropping on my head, but that's just the truth. It's going to hurt. So probably don't drop rocks on your head. That's why this stuff is subjective and objective. There's some objective stuff. So I said, I try to stay way the hell away from subjective things on my videos and articles. There's enough people arguing that stuff, and they do. They argue all day long about amp tone and stuff. I like things I can count or measure. It's like the old morality is ought argument. We may not agree what we ought to do, but we can make way the hell better decisions about it as long as we know what is. It's hard to know what you ought unless you know what is. So, for example, let's say it's real subjective, right? You're surfing. You could turn left or you could turn right. That's up to you. Which way do you like better? However, in this case, if you turn right, there is a shallower reef, so there's some consequence involved. It's nice to know about that. So, if you're in one of those days where you just kind of want to cruise, maybe turn left so you don't hit that reef. All right? That's it. It's important to know what is in order to decide what ought. And so I said, a lot of where I get in big trouble is when people claim there are things making a huge objective difference that we can't measure, like tone wood. Here comes my next banning. So here's a problem. I think I might have had this guy on ignore. I took everybody off ignore just because I'm a glutton for punishment. I should put him back on. But this guy says, no one will ever convince me that a physical guitar doesn't have an effect on the sound. All right. So first of all, if you ever start out with no one will ever convince me, you are violating the basic goal of epistemology. I don't even want to say his name anymore because he's gone completely crazy, but he used to say it in a good way. I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as I possibly can, and I care whether or not my beliefs are true. If you care whether or not your beliefs are true, you can't do this. No one will ever convince me. No one will ever convince me is dogma. That's your religion. That is stuck. You can't touch it. Saying anything against it is blasphemy. You don't want to be there. You definitely don't want to be there. You can't learn, and you can't know whether or not you're right because you're just going to stick with something regardless of the evidence. Of course, a physical guitar does have an effect on sound. If you cut the strings off, you're not going to have, reductio ad absurdum, but let's just go on. That being said, I also honestly don't care whether it's measurable or not. Why? Why don't you care? If it exists, it's measurable. Period. If it exists, it's measurable. If it's not measurable, it probably doesn't exist. And you saying I honestly don't care whether, again, when you're poisoning the well here, you are deciding, you're making up your conclusion ahead of time. I don't even care whether it literally does or doesn't. Yeah, see, This is how pseudoscience creeps in. It's just like, well, you don't know that peeing on your own face is gonna not cure cancer, or drinking somebody else. I mean, I know I don't want to get this thing completely banned, but there were cancer treatment guys running around there putting their urine into people, and the argument was, you don't know that it doesn't work. Maybe it does. It's not good. That's not how you live. You can't try everything in the world, and this gets me mad because this gets into victim blaming. I spend a lot more time with medical myths and things than with audio, believe it or not. And this is one of those things where it's just victim blaming. They'll chase these vampires will chase down families and say, have you tried this magical pill yet? Have you tried this magical fruit yet? If not, here, I'm going to sell you one for $1,000 or whatever. And they just convince people that they have to keep trying or they're guilty. And if your loved one is dying, you're going to try everything you possibly can. These are they're awful people. The same type of thinking gets in on audio. So he says, it's the important thing to me is whether the guitar inspires me, and that isn't measurable. I'd actually argue that it is. But if the guitar inspires you, it's probably because, you got the shape you can feel, you like sitting down and playing it or standing up and playing it. So I literally don't care what's responsible for how a guitar sounds anymore. Well, we don't care that you care. Okay. I just care whether I like it. And that's good enough for me because I'm playing them, not building them. Okay. And this is pretty much non sequitur, right? Anyway, I really enjoyed the talk. Lots of great information that I think a lot of people will need to hear. I'm a fan. Maybe that's because you guys all support my biases in the results of years worth of experimentation. And that's where we get nailed too, right? Me, especially, right? This is confirmation bias. When you hear stuff that agrees with you, oh yeah, they must be right. That's where we get nailed. That's where I get nailed all the time. I will, for the longest time, I thought that maple fretboards were brighter through the electric output even, and I would every time a guitar came in with just a maple neck and it just sounded bright, I was like, see? And then when they came in and they didn't and it sounded all dull, I'm like, oh well, that guitar's just messed up. But no, it wasn't the maple fretboard at all. It was the pickups. So yeah, I Megas Ferox, I get this one. I get nailed by this one all the time, but I probably more than you actually. I get nailed, but whatever. It's refreshing. Glenn mentioned these discussions might become a regular thing, and I'm a fan of the idea. Thank you. ETA. Also, you look totally different than who I pictured. Yeah, people say that a lot. One question: how bad was the scalp tattoo? I had to take a break halfway through my chest tattoo when the artist was going over my sternum. Ow! I can't really imagine what that was like. Ouch! So for you guys, if you know, I got a tattoo. It's my only tattoo. I don't travel well, and that's much of the reason why I do the things that I do. And I was going out to my friend's place to get this tattoo, and I got in a really bad traffic jam. And by the time I got there, I just fell asleep on the chair. And when I woke up, I had a tattoo. They said that on your head it's supposed to hurt real bad, but I was so tired I couldn't even stay awake. I can't imagine getting it on my chest, man. That there's so much sensitive stuff. Like, I'm a pro BMXer, man. I hit my head a lot. My chest, not so much. I have a chest protector, so I don't know. That sounds painful. That sounds horrifically painful. Like, I see all these Hawaiians with these giant tattoos all over their chest and stomach, or like Big Island Mike, like, it's pain. So Dr. Frankencopter, and look, I don't always agree with this guy, but this is ignore him at your peril. This guy is on a lot of the forums and he knows what he's talking about. And he always has insights, whether or not he knows what he's talking about. So he's saying, I think the thing is, in the end, that we're all mostly trying to make art, and that is subjective. Right. And I'm not going to say anything about that. But like my surfing example, it's art when you're surfing or whatever. You're turning left, you're turning right, you're deciding what to do. Or when you're eating, subjective tastes and stuff. But hey, this particular one has so much cholesterol in you that it'll shorten your life by 5 years. It's subjective which one you want to eat, but there's some objective components to it. Which one's going to kill you, right? There's also the placebo effect to consider. That's why we do as much ABX testing as we possibly can, and why we measure. Because if you measure, there are ways to get nailed by placebo effect in measurements. But in general, if you measure the proper things properly, And I'm not going to get into this postmodernism nonsense. Like you want to debate solipsism or something, come jump on the stream. We'll talk about it. But no. In the sense that even if objectively there is no difference, if you believe that there's a difference that can affect your playing, your mix, your experience, geez, even the lighting in the room can affect this, and there's clearly no measurable difference from that. I wouldn't go that far, but actually, I wouldn't go as far as that you can't measure the effect of the light. But just like if you look out at my room, you'll see the mics are always on the drums. I can start a recording in 5 minutes, an entire band, stuff that usually takes like 4 to 6 hours to set up, I can have up in less than 10 minutes. Ergonomics matters. Being happy with how you feel with your tools matters. If you worrying about your tools instead of working on the mix, it's a huge detriment to your sound. So no, that stuff is really important. That's not what we're talking about here, though. We are talking about the objective stuff. So the subjective stuff matters, but we're trying to give you the information on what is, and then you can decide what ought after that. Our hearing perception is different than how a microphone or oscilloscope sees the signal. We're getting better at understanding it, but there's a lot of processing going on between your eardrums vibrating and your brain building up the sonic pressure in your mind. Add to this that listening also takes practice and ability varies from person to person. That's okay. Measurements don't. The measurement is the same no matter who you are. So that's why we're talking about this stuff. Some people can listen to a track and have no idea what instruments are even playing. Others can hear way deeper into it. Again, that's all true, but it doesn't matter to what we're discussing here. I do appreciate the objective test, but I don't like when folks call it scientific. There's a difference. In fact, subjective tests can be scientific. That's how Floyd Toole demonstrated that people listen with their eyes, and I don't think anyone would argue that his tests were anything but scientific. Well, if it's scientific, then it's scientific. And it's not actually subjective, I don't think. I know that, well, see, here's where we get into some weird issues with determinism, right? Like, if you really want to go down quantum level and stuff, I don't know that there really is a subjective. There may not be, but that's way down deep. But let me, let's just do something real quick. Let's do McGurk effect. Peer review. So there's looks like there's piles of peer-reviewed articles on the McGurk effect. So it's definitely science. I'm not sure what this Floyd Toole one is, but it sounds pretty much the same. We know that eyes make a difference to your sound. That's the if you haven't seen it before, it's one where he says, I could try it here. I don't think this is going to work, but he's saying ba, ba, ba. Okay? Now, if I make the face for ba, ba, ba. Now, he also was saying fa, fa, fa. He was making the face for saying F, fa, but he was still saying ba. So he's like making the ba, ba, ba. I can't really do it, but your eyes were telling you which one you heard. And it's pretty interesting. But we could call it scientific. We could argue over whether or not it's science. I didn't write down a hypothesis first. We just did the testing, but I got somebody else here. Totally agree. I think this is the absolute key, but often gets forgotten when people are digging in heels and arguing about this or that. We don't dig in heels, all right? If you dig in heels, you've lost the argument. When you go to dogma, you've lost the argument. Then you got religion, not science. Speaking of tone wood, when people start to proclaim loudly that they can hear difference on solid bodies, great. That will help you as a luthier or building your own guitar. But don't pretend that hearing the difference between certain pickups or tone woods or whatever has anything to do with your talent or artistry as a musician. Thank you. Yeah, I'm on this side of it because I can't write or play crap, right? Tone may not just be in the fingers, but tone isn't music. I find especially guitar players forgetting that when chasing tone in guitars, pedals, amps, and even cables, tone is not music, and spending time A-Bing OD pedals against each other can be a fun science-ish experiment if you want to talk shop with the pedal builder, but you're not really playing music. See, this has kind of nothing to do with what me and Ethan were doing, but this tells you what's important. What's important is your songs, and I'll say it, I don't know where I wrote it, but I'll say it a million times. There's a reason people go back and buy those old, crappy Misfits recordings. Really crappy, I mean horrible recordings. But it's the songs. And I'll take the better songs any day over the well-recorded garbage song. Any day. So he continues, or she continues. Same with recording. Once you get to a reasonably proficient level of technical know-how, there is a difference in learning path and gear list between 1, a musician wanting to record their own stuff and remain a musician, and 2, a musician who is thinking of switching gears to become a mix engineer. I want my mix to sound great gets confused with this is a fantastic song composition. Yes, yes, yes. The assumption being that the great mix will lead to a great song. Like we said, what's good enough for a player or musician is different than a mix engineer or luthier. But what's good enough, when I say good enough, I usually mean, and when I say this threshold of give a crapitude, it's a kind of a sliding scale. But at the bottom end of it is stuff that won't make any difference no matter who you are, because it's never going to manifest in the actual recordings you're doing. It's too far below the noise floor or something else, some other issue where it just doesn't matter. But this thing, the great mix will lead to a great song. There are lots of pop songs and stuff where the mix is the song. And then there's sometimes where the mix engineer, I think of like guys like Rick Rubin or a lot of these rap guys that do beats and stuff, where they're, it's music, it's subjective, but it's also a lot of the mix, the sound of the thing actually makes a big difference. But I know, like I said, I'd still rather have a crappy recording of a good song than a good recording of a crappy song any day. Here's Science. Rex Anderson says, science is wonderful. It's a shame shysters and snake oil salesmen do so much harm in the world of audio. Yeah, audiophiles and stuff, right? But, the regular guys how many times have I been kicked off forums because some guy's yelling at a noob that he can't put this pickup or that pickup in a mahogany body guitar? It has to be a different body. And I just ask for evidence. You think the wood cares what pickup you put in it? He says, I learned audio fundamentals at the Institute of Audio Research in 1974. Wow. And got a degree in audio engineering in 1978 and worked as a professional recording and live sound engineer for 34 years. I learned a lot more when I was sent to Harman for training in 2019 and met Dr. Floyd Toole. So yeah, they're talking about Floyd Toole's event. So he's going to link the textbook here, Sound Reproduction, 3rd edition. A note from Floyd Toole. So this is written by Floyd Toole. I guess I got to read this thing. So somebody else says, that's not quite the point I wanted to make him late, but I don't want it far off. I'm a way better mix engineer than I ever was a songwriter. Ooh. I can't write my way out of a paper bag, and I'm okay with that. I guess I'm okay with that too. I think the problem comes when anyone trying to do something technical doesn't really understand anything about the science math behind what they're doing. But on the other hand, I can think of a handful of very talented and respected engineers who do very good work, who honestly believe that things like XLR cables for line level patches have a significant tonal effect. Now, we know in my life, there was a engineer producer that I wanted to meet since I first heard his name. And when I did, and it turned out that he was all into magical speaker cables and magical mic cables and stuff, I was bummed. But the thing is, that guy puts out albums that subjectively to me sound way better than anything I've ever done or could do. Maybe with one exception, but maybe I'm on par. But that was with a lot of help. I really liked his stuff, but man, the guy was nuts. But just being nuts doesn't mean you're not going to make good sounding stuff. I know lots of nuts in the engineering world who make killer sounding stuff. And this is a little bit different for me because to me, it's kind of my penance for getting people to buy a bunch of crap they didn't need back in the day. I think I kind of got a long day today. I think that's it for today. If you haven't seen this video, please go check out on Glenn Fricker's channel, Spectre Sound Studios, and it's called Don't Get Mad, Get Evidence. It's me, Glenn, and Ethan on this show. I'm really hoping just to do more live stuff. I like this. I don't like that it takes so long to get off, and I would really like to hear from the audience. I'd like to see all the the chats and everything. So hopefully we're gonna be doing more of these, and I go get my stuff together, and I guess I'll see you guys.